The idea of someone coming back from the dead is not within our normal experience of life, right? Usually dead things stay dead. That's what I experienced in life, at least. But here's kind of our main point for today, and that is that the faith is not just about evidence. It's about what we do with it. Let's see. So the women came to look at the tomb. Why is there a tomb? Because Jesus died. Why did he die? I could preach a whole sermon on that question, but short answer is because of the sin of the world. What is sin, real quickly? Quick, helpful definition of sin. John Stott, an old theologian, preacher, he said that the essence of sin is mankind substituting himself for God, while the essence of salvation is God substituting himself for man. I really like that clarity. He continues to explain, saying, man asserts himself against God and puts himself where only God deserved to be. God sacrifices himself for man and puts himself where only man deserves to be. Man, that'll preach right there. Okay, so back to the story. Matthew 28, starting at verse 2. So the women came to the tomb. Look, there was a great earthquake, for an angel from the Lord that came down from heaven. Coming to the stone, he rolled it away and sat on it. Now his face was like lightning and the clothes as white as snow. The guards were so terrified of him that they shook with fear and became like dead men. Maybe they fainted or something. Now, usually when we try to visualize angels in TV shows or movies or pictures, right, they're always nice and friendly looking. Maybe they got the Fabio long hair and stuff, right? But friendly with big wings, flowing clothes. But when you read the text here, and basically any time an angel shows up, every time an angel shows up in the Bible, the first thing they say is, don't be afraid, fear not, right? Why is that? Probably because the people they appear to are going, ah! Like, I don't think they look the way we visualize them, so they can be scary looking, or at least startling when they just appear to people. Continuing on, verse 5. But the angel said to the women, don't be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He isn't here because he's been raised from the dead, just as he said. Come, see the place where they laid him. Now, here's the problem we are all faced with. What are we to make with the tomb being empty? Up to this point, everything that has happened is verifiable by atheists and agnostic scholars and historians and archaeologists. A man named Jesus lived and claimed to be divine. The Romans killed him on a cross. He was buried in a tomb. You can't dispute any of those facts. Now, sometimes some people try to suggest that Jesus didn't really die, that he just swooned and then he rested in the tomb for a couple days, and then after resting for a couple days, he stumbles out of the tomb all refreshed and feeling better. But that's impossible. The Romans knew how to kill people, and they were pretty good at it. And crucifixion, it ends in death. Even atheists and agnostic scholars don't dispute that Jesus died. He was dead. There's also a general consensus among all scholars, regardless of their faith, that the tomb at this point in the story is now empty. If it wasn't empty, then those against Jesus could show, when his disciples start running around saying, hey, Jesus is resurrected. The enemies of Jesus could say, nope, here's his body. He's still dead. But they didn't do that. Why is that? Because they didn't have the body to show. The body was gone. The tomb was empty. This is what every person has to reconcile with. Why is the tomb empty? Let's keep reading. Verse 7. The angel's talking, saying, now hurry, go and tell his disciples. Say, he's been raised from the dead. He's going on ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there. I've given the message to you. With great fear and excitement, they hurried away from the tomb and ran to tell his disciples. But Jesus met them and greeted them. They came and grabbed his feet and they worshiped him. Then Jesus said to them, don't be afraid. Go and tell my brothers that I'm going into Galilee. They will see me there. Verse 11, now as the women were on their way, some of the guards came into the city and told the chief priests everything that had happened. And they met with the elders and decided to give a large sum of money to the soldiers. They told them, say that Jesus' disciples came at night and stole his body while you were sleeping. And if the governor hears about this, we will take care of it with him, so you will have nothing to worry about. So the soldiers took the money and did as they were told. And this report has spread throughout all Judea to this very day. So here is where we come to a crossroads. We live in the modern Western post-Enlightenment scientific era where we want evidence and proof of everything. And understandably, like, it's helpful when things are just undeniable to us. And the idea of someone coming back from the dead is not within our normal experience of life, right? Like, usually dead things stay dead. That's what I experienced in life, at least. But here's kind of our main point for today, and that is that the faith is not just about evidence. It's about what we do with it. Faith isn't just about evidence, it's what we do with the evidence. Everyone can look at the same evidence and come to different conclusions. We see this happen all the time. All scientists in the world are looking at the same universe. We're all in the same universe here together, and yet some say that there was intelligent design. Some say that it was a lucky accident. We all have the same information in front of us, and some say that the world is flat, and some say the world is round. We're all looking at the same economy, and some say we should be conservative, and others say we should be liberal in our economic policies. We're all looking at the Seahawks offseason moves, and some are convinced we're going to the Super Bowl, and some people are saying we're not even going to make the playoffs. So I've sometimes wondered why. Like, if Jesus is real, and if the resurrection is true, why can't everyone believe it, right? Since everyone doesn't believe it, does that prove that it's not true? Well, the thing is, faith isn't just about evidence. It's about what we do with the evidence. We all have the same evidence, but not all of us choose to believe it. You can just look at the three responses in this story that I just read to you. The women saw the tomb and the angels, and they worshiped. The soldiers also saw the tomb and the angels, and they covered it up. The Jewish religious leaders heard from the soldiers what truly happened. The soldiers said, yeah, there's something supernatural going on here. But the religious leaders hardened their hearts. They refused to believe. So my question for you this morning is, what are you going to do with the evidence? What are you going to do? What's your response? Some of you may be like the women in this story. I love what Matthew says here in verse 8. The angel just explained to the women that Jesus is risen to go tell the disciples. So what do? In verse 8, it says, they run with great fear and excitement. That's so beautiful to pair those, fear and excitement. They were afraid, but they didn't let their fear stop them. They didn't have all the answers. They didn't understand exactly what was going on, but they had enough to worship Jesus. We could say that their faith was imperfect, uncertain. It was messy, but it was real, and it was rewarded. See, faith is not about having no fear and no doubts. It's about what direction are you steering your life anyways, in spite of the fear and doubts that you may have in life. It's okay to have some fear. It's okay to have some questions in your life. You don't have to get your life all in order before you follow Jesus. Instead, start with having faith. Like the women, run with fear and excitement. All right, then what about the guards? The guards, they saw the same evidence as the women, right? The exact same. They could have believed, but belief would have cost them too much. It would have meant probably losing their jobs. They wouldn't be able to be Roman soldiers anymore. It would mean defying their leaders. To believe it would mean having to surrender control of their lives. Because here's the hard truth for us, that some people don't reject Jesus because there's not enough proof. They reject him because it would cost them too much. That's just the reality. Because of decisions that someone has made, or it's just the family that they're born into, or the culture that they're in, that believing and following Jesus may be more costly to some people than it is to others. That's just the hard reality in life, and that's a deal breaker for some people. For some of you, it might mean your pride has to take a back seat. If Jesus is the king, that means you're not the king. If Jesus is alive, then you can't necessarily live your life exactly the way you want to. You have to let Jesus have some say over it. There might be some fear, if I follow Jesus, what will I lose in life? What will be required of me? Or maybe there's some insecurity. He won't accept me, not me. He wouldn't love me. I've done too much. What is keeping you from truly believing? Thirdly, there's the religious leaders in the story. They had seen Jesus do miracles. They've talked with Jesus and debated, and they've witnessed everything. They knew Jesus was dead, and then they knew that the tomb had become empty under supernatural circumstances, according to the soldiers' report. But they were just committed to staying in control. To believe in Jesus was to admit that they had been wrong and that they had to change everything about their lives, and they did not want to do that. No amount of evidence was going to change their minds. They were unwilling to change. Some people don't reject Jesus because of a lack of evidence. They reject him because of a hardened heart. See, the danger of rejecting Jesus isn't just disbelief. It's what disbelief does to our hearts over time. If we continue to push Jesus away, our hearts will get hardened. Hebrews 3:15 says, "Today, if you hear his voice, don't have stubborn hearts as they did in the rebellion." So here we are on Easter Sunday, 2025. We're celebrating the resurrection of Jesus. What is your response to him? Some will run to Jesus even though they're afraid or confused or doubting or broken. Some will push Jesus away because he's just too inconvenient for their lives. Some will harden their hearts, refusing to surrender to him. People around the world are celebrating Easter and responding to the story of Easter in different ways. Jesus said in John 20, verse 29, he said, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." The resurrection changes everything for us. Our God is not dead. He took on sin and the evil of this world, and he absorbed it for our sake, and he overcame it, giving us hope, not just for life after death, but hope for the life we're living right now, too. It's not just we get a ticket to heaven, but it affects our current experience of life now. The resurrection is an invitation for us, not to a blind faith, but to a real choice. Not just to celebrate Easter like a holiday, but to respond to the reality of who Jesus is.